Well, good afternoon and welcome to Comp 422 and Comp 620, Information Privacy and Security. Both sections are mashed together. I'm Ken Williams. I am the instructor for this class. I've been here for a while, since 1992, which is quite a while. I was once upon a time chair of the department. That was before Dr. Roy, who was before Dr. Lewan, who was before Dr. Dozier. Then I was chair. And that was right after Dr. Monroe. Oh, Dr. Monroe's got a building right next door. That's his building. I'm waiting for mine. Okay, but all right. So I've been here for a while. So this is information privacy and security. This is hot stuff. Earlier this year, the House Homeland Security Committee had a meeting, and they were telling everybody how they need all sorts of computer security trained people, and that would be you. So yes, so hopefully if you do well in this course, you should be able to go out and get a job, and there's lots of jobs waiting for you. Besides, I think you find it kind of fun. It's a challenge attack sort of thing. Okay, I've been doing computing, I've been programming for over 50 years. Gray beard, see, I'm an old guy. But what do I know about computer security? I'd like to know more, but it's changing all the time. I did teach this class last semester and a couple of times before that. I've done research in the area of encryption and educational cybersecurity. Long ago, I was a manager of systems programming and the staff of Michigan Technological University, where I was in charge of computer security. And before that, I went to school there, and I had fun trying to break into the computer system ethically. I do it ethically. You find something, you tell them you got something, say, hey, give me some time. They, okay, at 4 a.m., you can go and try to attack us. It works. Okay. This class is going to teach all about cybersecurity. I consider it a sort of a breadth class in cybersecurity. There are many other cybersecurity courses, both undergraduate and graduate at A&T, and they go into more depth. This one covers a lot of topics, but not with terrible depth. So we have a textbook. Okay, over that in a minute. It's kind of theoretical. I like to do more practical things. And so we'll see more about that during the semester. You can learn to be a good hacker in this class, but the intent of this class is to teach you how to prevent people from hacking into systems. Now, there's a lot of different types of students here. We have undergraduates and graduates. We have students with bachelor's degrees in computer science, some in computer systems technology, some information technology. We also have the cybersecurity certificate people. Anybody else is somebody who's not on the list? Okay. All right. This class is the core class number 1 for the cybersecurity certificate, which says you can do it. It's going to be an all online class. Now, obviously, it's both online and on campus. The on-campus people are here. The online people are out there someplace. You can attend this class any way you want to. There are 3 ways to attend this class. You can sit here in Graham 208. You can watch it online as we teach the class between 4:30 and 5:45. Or, since we're recording it, you can watch the recording, which will be out on Blackboard, hopefully by 7 o'clock at night. It takes a while. I mean, computing processing, process the video, it takes 15, 20 minutes to process that. And I usually got to get out of here, go home, take care of it. So it takes a while. We'll try to be up by 7 o'clock. Okay. Note, by the way, on Monday, November 20th, telling you way ahead, months ahead, this class is only going to be online. So the people in here, don't bother showing up because I won't be here. All right. So every day, this is the plan. Sometime before noon, before 1, at least before 4:30, I will put the slides of this class out on Blackboard. You can look at them. And then hopefully around 4:25, I'm going to turn on the Zoom so the online people can start getting connected. And then at 4:30, I start talking, we start the recording, and then at 5:45, I stop the recording. And sometime that day, again, I try to get that recording out on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel. Watch out, Taylor Swift. So, okay. Now, what do we want to learn here in Comp 620? Okay, again, I said you could be a good hacker, but a goal is to help you secure systems against common threats. So we're going to go over most of the general, well-known attacks. And if you protect your system against the well-known attack vectors, then you're going to be much safer than all the systems that don't protect themselves. We're going to learn how to design systems that keep information private. I'd also like to have you be able to design systems that qualify for the new US Cyber Trust Mark. Whenever I learn what the Cyber Trust Mark is, it isn't actually out there yet, but the government has announced they're going to put out the Cyber Trust Mark that will specify that a product that has a Cyber Trust Mark has met minimum security requirements. And as soon as I learn what the minimum security requirements are, we will make sure that we all know them and be able to create systems that would be Cyber Mark or Cyber Trust Mark acceptable. Okay, there are a bunch of topics we want to cover here, all sorts of things, which we'll cover throughout the semester. Encryption, the syllabus contains the schedule for the course, access, let's see, don't see, well, authentication and access is up there in the first and beginning. Encryption follows shortly afterwards, so not steganography. Steganography is hiding information. It's not really a particularly useful topic, but it's fun, so we're going to talk about it. And all sorts of other topics that are out there, models. And so we'll cover these. Did I forget anything? Was there something you want to get out of this class? Anything anybody wants? Is there something you wanted to learn that you didn't see on my list? Because I can always rearrange the schedule. Now I can rearrange the schedule. Back sometime end of September or end of November? No, I can't. Okay, office hours. I'm just a poor officeless faculty member. I don't have an office, so I don't have office hours in that sense. And I've been doing this for 30 years. Students don't show up to office hours. Or if somebody shows up to office hours, is that guy who's got the 99.5 average and wants to see what he can do to get it better. People who need to show up don't usually show up. So if you want to show up for office hours, we can do a Zoom meeting. We can talk on the phone. We can go out for a cup of coffee someplace. Send me an email or send me a text message, and we'll arrange at whatever convenient time. Okay, so that's how we're going to do office hours. I'm not going to have a set time unless you really want a set time, and I can do that. But I've had set times, and I sit there looking at the Zoom camera doing nothing, and so I'd rather not do that. Okay. There are a couple websites for this course. There is a course Blackboard. All the slides, all the videos, all the assignments, your grades will all be out on Blackboard. I might note that Blackboard's grade calculations are not as accurate as mine. We'll talk about grades in a minute, but so I have the accurate grades. Blackboard will be real close. The individual grades will be accurate. How they're weighted and summed together, Blackboard doesn't quite weight them and sum them as well as I'd like. There's another website, http comp620.free.ns. That's a website that I'm putting some of the assignments out on there. Now, first of all, it's not an HTTPS. The S costs money. I don't pay that kind of money to do that. So we're just doing the cheap version. And I've noticed that some systems don't like you go to that. In other words, you go to that and it goes, oh, this is an unsafe website. Well, yes, it is. I made it unsafe myself, but don't worry about that. I mean, it's not unsafe to your computer. So I'll let you know if you have problems getting there, but if you do, just tell your system, oh, it's okay. Dr. Windows won't try to get you. Oh, yes, and it's time to point out that I often refer to this as Comp 620. It's Comp 620 and Comp 422. I made the name too long. So a lot of times things say Comp 620, but think 422 and Comp 620. Last year, I was also teaching both of them, but they didn't tell me that until the second day I was teaching. It surprised a lot of the students in 422 when I didn't show up because I was teaching in another class, but that's something else. Okay, yes, my email is real simple. It's williams@ncat.edu. There are 40 Williamses working at the university. There are 3 in this class. I have twins because I was here first. Okay. Textbook. This is the textbook. It looks like this. There's an old version that looks like that. That's almost as good as that one. It's available at the bookstore. I don't know what the textbook arrangements are this time. I don't know if it's available online or whether you have to buy paper. I don't know what it costs. I didn't look into that. You probably want to get a textbook because I mean, they're sitting there listening to me is probably insufficient. You'll want to have something to refer to. Okay, if somebody finds out what it cost you, let me know. And will anybody buy one already? Remember what it cost? Okay.
I think it's free.
All right. 620, the graduate course has no prerequisites except you have to be a graduate student or an undergraduate with a good GPA or a certificate student. There is a requirement for 422 students. You had to have passed data structures with a C or better. This is not a programming class. We will not require you to write programs because I know that some of you can't write programs, or at least have yet to learn how to write programs. That doesn't mean you can't, you just haven't learned how to write programs yet. But I will have to talk about programming every now and again because many of the cyber threats are the result of poor programming practices. And so I kind of have to talk about programming, tell you, well, don't ever do this because that causes the trouble. So you know what that is, soldier. Okay, grades. This is what everybody wants to know. How do you get a good grade in this class? Okay, there'll be assignments. First assignment is out there right now. It's really simple. We'll talk about it in a minute. There'll be a bunch of them. I'm looking for 8 to 10 assignments this semester. The average of them all, throwing out the lowest one, counts for 20% of your grade. And they throw out the lowest assignment, not the lowest exam or anything else, just the lowest assignment. That way, you know, everybody can have their bad day, or maybe you had to go do something else, then that takes care of that. 3 exams, it's all in the syllabus schedule. Each exam is worth 20% and the finals worth 20%. So you may note that the exams count for a tremendous amount of the scoring in this grade. Okay. Here is the grading scale, the ever generous grading scale for this class. Look at that. You can go down to 87 to get an A in this class. I mean, if you go into the public school systems in Guilford County, you have to get a 93 or better to get an A. No, this seems to work. I might note that only undergraduates can get a C, D plus, or D. I mean, I hope that you don't. But graduates, the graduate scale goes to a C and then drops to an F. If you do worse than a C, you go to an F. You don't want to get an F. If you're a graduate student, an F practically dooms you. And I try to avoid giving out Fs. I have, but I try to avoid it. You have to work hard to get an F. Okay, that's pretty simple. Final exam is the scheduled date. It's Monday, December 11th, normally scheduled time. Haven't changed it. Now, exams. All the exams will be online, whether you are an online student or whether you're an on-campus student, all the exams will be online because there's 82 students in this class. There's only about 30 some students sitting here in front of me, which means there's hopefully 50 some of you out there on the web. But so a lot of people. So we're going to make all the exams online. Now, they'll be available the whole day, starting at 6 a.m. all the way up to midnight. That's 18 hours. Now, it should not take you 18 hours to do the exam. Hopefully, it'll only take you 2 hours. On the first exam, keep track of how much time you spent on it. So I'm going to ask you that later, and we'll try to get a survey of how long it took, so you know how mean I am. The exams may require you to access certain websites and do things. Because it's online, because I'm not staring at you, there'll obviously be open book, open web, open notes, open chat GPT. Go ahead and try. Yeah, I run some of my exams with chat GPT. Sometimes it doesn't know. Sometimes it gives you a really nice answer. It doesn't work. Okay. But you know, it's another tool. Okay. Now, one thing that you can do to cheat is talking to other students or other people. You're exposed to do the exams yourself. You can look at all sorts of resources, but not human beings. Don't talk to other people. That's not fair. So to be fair to everybody does their own work, look at the notes. And of course, at any time you go, what does he mean by that? You can always give me a call, send me a text or something, send me email and ask me, what did I mean by that question? The question is not clear. I try to make the questions clear. I've got TAs. Oh, yeah, well, TA should be here later on to make it obvious what I mean. But if I don't, just ask. Okay, there'll be several assignments. Assignments are due whenever the schedule is, whenever I say the assignment is due. Purpose of the assignments is to reinforce the material that we're teaching. So if you don't do it that day, then it's kind of pointless. It's silly to do it weeks later. So it's due the day it's due. It starts becoming, you start losing a lot of points after that. Now, if you're sick or something, just let me know and we can take it. That's okay. You know, you have a reason, that's fine. We are not that evil and mean. Well, don't ask the other students, but I'm not really that evil and mean. And so we can let you turn things late. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to let you do that famous student thing of turning in all the assignments last week. It's just not going to happen. I'm tired of that shit. So we're not going to do that. Okay. Compliance with the American Disabilities Act. The university asked me to put this comment up there, but I'll do better than that. If you require some accommodation, let me know, and I promise you, I'll do everything I can to accommodate. The university can't do any better than that. Attendance. Okay. This is mostly online and in person. I don't even know how I'd measure attendance, so I'm not doing attendance. Besides, you're adults by now. I mean, if you're not here, I assume you have something more important to do. Things happen. We all have a life, I hope. You should watch attend the lecture, watch it online, do something, because there is some material that I'm going to cover in class that is not in the textbook. And of course, anything I cover in class might appear on an exam. So, yeah. And again, if you miss the lecture in person, or if you miss it online, you can always go back and watch the recording. There'll be no graded activities in class. I will very shortly start doing interactive multiple choice questions in class. And we'll cover, if you're online, that'll be using the Zoom survey. If you're here in class, I have another clever way we're going to do it. We'll cover that next week. But there'll be no graded activities. In other words, there'll be these multiple choice questions, and the purpose of them is for you to understand how well you understand the material, and for me to understand how well the class is understanding the material. In other words, to ask a question, nobody gets it right. I'm going, ooh, maybe we ought to back up and cover that again. So that's now, having said you don't have to attend, I provide this chart from a class I taught myself a couple years ago. This is on the x-axis, I have their attendance score. On the y-axis, I have their grade for the class. You may know that everybody who got a bad grade, everybody who flunked the class had really miserable attendance. Everybody who got a good grade in the class had good attendance. There might be a relationship there. It looks like Excel put this nice curve there for me. You can see that straight line. So generally, people who attend the class get better grades. I should hope that attending the class does not give you a worse grade. Now, of course, there's this poor schmo here who attended very often, still got a miserable grade. But yes, attendance will probably improve your grade. So, and besides, you're paying for this. Get out your calculator, look at what you pay for tuition, figure out how many classes there are, do the other thing. And you know, it's like going to the movies. It's not cheap. So you paid for it, you might as well go. Oh, a couple of usual things I have to say. Oh, yes, is you should take your phone out and set it to silence, like I just did. Thank you. Okay. Yes, it's easy to forget. Please do that because you don't want it beeping and honking in the middle of class. Also, if you are online, mute yourself unless you want to say something. In this class, I allow you to unmute yourself. I mean, I have the Zoom, I think I have the Zoom parameters allowing you to easily unmute yourself and even to share screens if you need to, but we're going to, so keep yourself muted unless you have something to say. That way, if you have radio on in the background, we don't get all hit. Okay. Cheating, I have to say this, we'll use the College of Engineering's academic integrity statement. And if you cheat, so don't cheat. If I do happen to catch you cheating on an assignment, then you get a 0 for the assignment. Don't do it twice. I mean, if I catch you twice, you're really, really stupid and you don't deserve to pass this class. And if you cheat on an exam, that's also flunking the class. or actually I will pass it on to the academic integrity committee and let them figure out what to do with you. So now what happens most of all is people work together. That's great. Study with a buddy, but you should do your own work. Don't copy your friend's results this time. If you work together, don't come up with one solution and both of you post it. That's going to look to me like cheating. So don't do that. Everybody should do their own work, even if you study together. I am going to make a big effort to start this class at 4:30 every day. I don't care if you're late. That's your issue, not mine. If you're coming into class late, just come in quietly. That's fine. But I'm going to make a challenge to do it 4:30. So those people who show up at 4:30, we can get going, start the classes. Yes, 4:30, 5:45 may overlap with certain people's religious obligations. If it does, let me know in private and we'll figure out some accommodation. Okay. Yes, the semester schedule is on the syllabus. As it says in the bottom, which is part of the university syllabus template. I reserve the right to be able to change that if I have to. And if things don't work out or we start to slip or things get messed up, we'll change it. Sometimes classes get canceled or whatever, or sometimes we're just not going as fast as I had hoped. We will slow down and throw out a few materials and try to change the schedule. So it may change, but I'm going to make an effort to try to stick to the schedule. Now, if you're doing this class online, there is a requirement that you complete the online orientation. It's right there. That's where you find it. So for those people who are out there, I wonder how many of you have already violated a university rule on the first day of class. Boy, I learned that there's a list of common policies out on Blackboard for this class. It's the standard common policies that the university makes, and I just included it because they tell me I have to. Okay. Any questions about the class syllabus material? Everybody understand where we're going? The question how we're going to do that? Okay. There is an assignment out on Blackboard. It is due next Tuesday. It is really easy. It's a pass-fail assignment. If you do it, you pass. If you don't, you fail. It's just a survey. I want to know the background stuff. I want to know what programming languages you know. I want to know, or if any programming, I want to know certain things about you. It's pretty clear. I'm not asking any personal information. Well, I ask your name. It is not an anonymous survey. I want your name so I can relate that to other things if there are questions later on. So please do it. And again, all you have to do is go up there, answer the questions, name, rank, serial number, and you get 100 on it. Note that Blackboard isn't very good at scoring these things when any answer will do. So I will go back manually and give it 100. But it's due by noon on Tuesday. So go. Now, this counts like any other assignment in this class. This is the easiest assignment in this class. You will all get 100 if you do it. You're going to want that 100 when you come to the end of the semester. So don't blow it. Do it now, because I'll tell you the rest of the assignments are going to be a little bit more challenging. All right. But I'm not done if that's all the questions. Whoop, yes. Hang on. And I've got more if I can get there. Yes. Okay. Press that button, and nothing happens. Oh, yes, it did happen. Oh, okay. Sometimes computers amaze me. All right. Let me briefly go over the whole concept of cybersecurity. Well, I went out to Wikipedia and asked Wikipedia, what is cybersecurity? And this is what it told me. It's basically protecting your computer systems from theft or damage of the software. It's pretty hard to damage the hardware, but that's it's possible. Keep your data, keep from disruption. That's computer security. I also add, we want to keep things private. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but we want privacy. The course name is Information Privacy and Security. Now, who's out there to get you? For a while, the media kept putting out there was this teenage kid who was out there hacking into systems so easily. That's not really the case. Really, most of it now are criminals who are doing it for the money, because they're trying to steal the information, then sell it out on the black web. They steal credit card information, all sorts of other things. So that's what they do. Also, they do extortion, such as ransomware, where they'll keep your computer system from running and ask you to pay them a lot of money in order to make it running again. Sometimes they want to use your computer as a resource to do another attack. In other words, if they want to attack somebody's server and they need 10,000 computers to do that attack, well, they may try to hijack your computer into doing the attack for them. And they might want to go out there and change information, such as your grades. So mostly it's done by that. Now, you have to think of the levels of attack. How much of a threat are the attackers? Well, we have ordinary Joe six-pack who's out there just surfing the web. If you have private information, you should be able to keep it away from ordinary web users. Some people don't. There's private information out there that you can just find by surfing around without any real effort at all. So you should avoid that. Then there are sophisticated users who understand the system. I think that would be computer science majors. So that's a little bit more difficult to keep these students or these threats away. And then there's the professional thieves, people who are doing it for fun and profit, who are out there trying to make sure that they can get the information so that they can sell it and make money. And they're, of course, going to put more effort into it. There are insiders. These are people who work for the company or just recently left the company. A big danger is disgruntled ex-employee, somebody who was just fired from the company, who may know all the secrets. And so you need to be able to protect against them, and they may be difficult to protect against because they know things. So you have to protect against them. And then there are other corporations that might have lots and lots of money and would really like to know what are those secret spices. So they may be interested in spending a lot of money to find out. And then there's governments. One government may attack another government, or one government may attack citizens in another country, and they have lots of resources. They probably hire a whole army of people to do this, who are spending their full time attacking your system. And so they are very difficult to protect against, but not impossible. You don't have to run faster than the bear. You just have to run faster than the other guy. You don't have to protect your system against all the attacks. But if you protect your system more than all the others, well, then any reasonable attacker is going to attack the other guys and not attack your system because yours is harder to attack. So just try to be. There are cyber wars. Nations are attacking nations now. It's no question about it. It's been going on since Web War I, back in April 27, 2007. That was, that was 16 years ago or something. Yes, that's a way. Yes, way back then, Russia was angry at Estonia. Estonia, if your geography is right next to Russia, it became independent of Russia back several years ago. There are a lot of ethnic Russians in Estonia, and they were taking down Soviet-era statues. Think removing Civil War soldiers' statues. It was that kind of upsetness. And since there was another country that was involved in it, they started attacking Estonia. Well, since then, Estonia has really beefed up their cybersecurity. They have the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center out there. And so they are significant. Also, they have a lot more of their government works through the web than the United States does. But they're very web-oriented. In other words, if you file your income taxes here in the United States, you either go through paper or a third party, some web system, TurboTax, and TurboTax is owned by a company. But in other countries, they have a web interface where you file your income tax. Hey, and a lot of things run through the web. We don't do that very well. But because other nations have a lot of money, you can imagine in the USA has the National Security Agency, the NSA, which has both defense and offense capabilities. They probably have a whole bunch of people sitting there looking at how they might attack other people if that need should arise. And here in Greensboro, the Colonial Pipeline got hit a couple years ago. They shut it down and they weren't pumping gas to all the other states. It caused a gasoline shortage in the eastern United States because they weren't pumping it through the pipes in the ground. They weren't pumping it because somebody, reportedly Russian criminals, but who knows. They did pay them in Bitcoins, and they got some of the money back. There are a whole bunch of US government cybersecurity agencies. There are 14 government security agencies. We used to have this big folder, just folded out of all the security agencies. There's a lot of them. Some of them are doing with cybersecurity. There's National Institute of Standards and Technology. They call it. There's Homeland Security. Homeland Security does a whole bunch of stuff, and underneath them is the National Cybersecurity Communications Integration, a couple others. The one I see most of all is CERT, U.S. Computer Emergency Readiness Team, and the Cyber Emergency Response Team. Those are out there, and they watch the attacks that are going on and provide announcements. If somebody discovers a new important attack, they'll send out email if you register for them, and you can learn about new attacks coming out. So if you are in charge of the computer system, you'd want to register to get these announcements so you know right away when an attack has been discovered. Cyber Command, yes. Okay. What are we trying to do here with security? What is cybersecurity? There are three main things which go by the initial CIA, which are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And there's three others that I add that we often try to do, which are authentication, authorization, and anonymity, which I'll cover in just a minute. So it's CIA. So let me cover those in some detail, what we're trying to do. This is our goals. Okay, confidentiality. We're trying to maintain secrets. We're trying to keep information private that should be kept private so that others who are not authorized to see it, or people who do not want to see your data, cannot see your data. Keep your data secret. A secure application is one that does not allow others to see the information that it uses. It does what it's supposed to do and doesn't allow other users to make it do something that you do not want it to do. Okay. You can keep things confidential by hiding it, but that's not a real good way most of the time. Just hiding it, I hope they won't find it, doesn't work real well, although there are ways to hide information that are effective. Network address translation is a means of keeping information private. That's a firewall. Your network's over here. You have internal network addresses, and you go through the network address, and it changes the addresses and the packets that go out. So nobody on the outside world sees that. In fact, the outside world sees that you have one great big computer. And in reality, you may have thousands of computers, but it doesn't know that. It just sees there's one great big one and it doesn't know what you're doing with it. So that's information hiding. Integrity means not allowing anybody to change the data that is not supposed to change the data. So if you have information you want to keep private, if I'm not allowed to get your grades out, I don't want anybody else to see your grades. An application has integrity if nobody can get the information out of it that they're not supposed to get. A lot of this is a little fuzzy, and it's defined as what do you want as the owner or manager of this information? What do you want released? What do you not want released? And then manages integrity or confidentiality if it doesn't release what you don't want released, integrity if it doesn't change what you don't want changed. Also, there's origin integrity. That is, you know that information comes from a particular source, or email or a file comes from a particular source and it says so. So if you get an email from Harold Martin, you can be assured that it really comes from Harold Martin. It's not a fake. Availability is making sure the system is running, making sure that users can use it when they want to. Basically, denial of service, when somebody tries to break the availability, try to crash your system in some way, so that people who should be allowed to use it cannot use it. So that would be violating the availability. Also, in addition to people attacking your system, things break. Things break by nature. And so occasionally things, and you want to be able to reduce the impact of things naturally breaking. So something, if a disk crash, if its system breaks, then you want to minimize that and be able to continue running over the minimum. There are all sorts of systems that work on trying to be fault tolerant, such that if something breaks, it just keeps on going and allows you to fix it while it's running. Authentication is proving who you are. That is, if you have access to this information, then you need to prove to the system that you are you, that you're not somebody else, that Joe Smith is not trying to hack into your system and trying to log in as you. Only you can log in as you. Of course, we use passwords traditionally to log in. That is not very secure. We'll talk about other ways to do it and ways to make the password system more secure. Oh, we'll have some fun. One of the next assignment after doing all your information, will be coming up next week, is breaking a password system by trying all the common passwords. I've made myself there's multiple lists out there. You can get a list of the top 1,000,000 most commonly used passwords, which counts for many of them. And it turns out that if you try the most common 1,000,000 passwords, you most likely get in, because many people use common passwords. And so if you just try to help them now, you can sit there and type in 1,000,000 once. No, we've got programs that will do that for you, and we'll be using those next week. Sometimes programs need to authenticate themselves to other programs, because not all humans. One system across the web may want to access another system. Much of the web is not for people to look at things. It's business to business, computer to computer activities that's going on. And one computer needs to authenticate itself to the other computer so that it can pass information in a secure manner. Authorization is whether you're allowed to access. It's slightly different than authentication. Authentication is proving who you are. Authentication is what can you do now that we know who you are. On computer systems, there are different levels of authorization. Some people can only read certain information, others can change the information, and some certain individuals may have lots of privileges and can do all sorts of things. So authorization is typically tied to authentication, because you only want to authorize those people that you've authenticated. And we'll talk about that. I think that, in fact, is next Monday's lecture. And then there's anonymity and privacy. We want to keep things private. We want to keep there's privacy. Yes, whatever privacy there is out there, we want to maintain it. So we want to release as little information as we can. We don't want to release what we don't want released. Now, I've been out looking at what goes out there. I have a Samsung phone, and Samsung had in their end user agreement, you look at what are they reading? Somebody who reads the privacy statement, they always have, I agree to this, and they have a little, nobody ever goes out and read, well, I go out and read those things. And there is no privacy. They collect everything you can imagine. Anything they might get. Passwords you use, name, rank, date of birth, gender, information, pictures, text, websites you go to, everything. You use a service, they keep track of where you clicked, and Samsung records it all, and they can use that for whatever they want to. So their privacy statement basically says they ain't got any. Forget it. You don't have any privacy. And if you use a phone, you've agreed to this. Now, if you have an Apple iPhone, the policy statement is significantly better. They have much more concern about your privacy. Nevertheless, they do collect a bunch of data. Not nearly as bad as your Android, Samsung phones, but it's a whole lot safer. Now, computer security costs you. It's not free. It costs effort to implement it. If a company wants cybersecurity, they're going to have to hire somebody like you and hopefully pay you a lot of money to do this, and that costs the company money. And so it may cost hardware. You may want to buy software. All this costs money. And then there's the user convenience. It is a lot nicer if you turn your computer on, open it up, and it works and doesn't ask you for a password or your fingerprints or anything else. But by doing that, by that little user inconvenience, you can keep it much more secure. So that's the cost of security. General statement: for the cost of defeating a system of security must be greater than the value of the information it protects. So companies have information that may be very important for them. There's a lot of companies the source code to their software product is it. If somebody gets that, that company is gone. They are out of work. They're out of work. You know, they're going to fold up. So you have to keep that secure. And if our organization is well funded, they may be able to launch a significant attack against it. And with a lot of resources, you know, with billions of dollars of computers and people, they may be able to get into it. Brute force attack works. So they might be able to get there. You have to make it so it's more difficult to get your information than the value of information. And don't undervalue your information. It's worth a lot more than you probably think it is. Now, sadly, nothing is absolutely secure. It is not really possible to keep it absolutely secure. But we are going to talk in this class about how to get it as secure as you might hope to. There's always threats that we don't know about. Somebody thinks of something really clever, they go, you weren't protected against that, were you? And so you got to go out and update your systems to protect yourself. And it's not only your software. Most software these days is available all sorts of parts. You have all sorts of libraries you're using, and little do you know, but this little library out there, has a flaw in it. Somebody finds a flaw in it, and now every piece of software that used that library is vulnerable, and everybody has to rush around and change it. But fortunately, you can secure your system to make it difficult. And again, if you make it really difficult, the attacker's probably not going to bother you because other people aren't making it difficult, and they're going to go after them. If you read the literature, there's often a war about the black hats and white hats. Now, let me talk about that right now, because traditionally, black is bad and white is good. But that seems to have racial implications. Many years ago, I heard Dick Gregory talk about this. He was the information minister for the Black Panthers. If you know what the Black Panthers are, you're just not as old as I am. But anyway, yes. But that's a social issue. I'm not going to cover it. I mean, I could be accused of covering critical race theory if I did. Heavens, I don't want to step on that landmine. But yes, so I'm not going to use black hats and white hats. We're going to have attackers and defenders. But in the literature, you will see that. So we recognize that, yes, there may be some issues with those terminology. That's the terminology people are using. You can go out there and change it, make an impact to the world. But for right now, we're just going to go the bad guys and the good guys, or the attackers and the defenders. And so it is kind of a war. There is an attack. The bad guys are out there trying to break in. They find something new. The good guys respond and try to patch it so it doesn't happen. People try to keep ahead of them. The good guys should not just be reactive, although often they are reactive. Try to be ahead. Try to look at what vulnerabilities might be out there and patch them before the bad guys figure it out. Not all the bad guys are really smart. Some of them are script kiddies. They're just following information. So there'll always be security threats. In fact, a lot of these people who are doing the security attacks know almost nothing about that. There's services you can buy. Ransomware is a service. You can go out and buy ransomware systems. You pay somebody for your ransomware system. You go out and you buy yourself some passwords or user IDs and passwords that somebody's stolen, and then you can attack this system and do a ransomware attack against them and charge them a lot of money. And the different groups that sold you this stuff may just sell it for cash, or they may ask for a cut of the take. They want, a percentage of how much money you get. So, it's out there. They don't have to know much. They just have to go out and buy the products, usually sold in Bitcoins, but and get their money. There are different things you can do to a system. Let's go over some of the more lower level things you can do. In interception, that is being able to read the information as it goes across a wire. Typically, think of going across, intercepting it as it goes, eavesdropping somehow. Modification, that's changing it unauthorized, going out there and changing the information. Fabrication, it's making things up. That's making up information that's untrue and putting up. Deep fakes are a big thing these days. We'll spend a little time, very little time, because I know very little about it, but I've been reading. We'll learn about deep fakes and what can be done to protect against those. That's fabrication what people make. We're going to see a lot of them in the next year. Election coming up. AI and computer systems are better at deep fakes than they've ever been. And so the upcoming elections, they are going to use them. You can expect to see lots of deep fakes. Be ready for it. There's interruptions, denial of service, or delay system. Repudiation. Repudiation is where you cannot deny that you did. So in other words, if you signed a document saying, I'm going to buy 100 widgets, and somebody delivers 100 widgets and says, well, pay out. You can go, I didn't order 100 widgets. And they go, yes, you did. Here is the order, and you signed it right there. You can do this electronically, of course. People don't want you to deny that you did. So repudiation is changing and denying the receipt. They can do this. They can eavesdropping. They can just tap into your network, particularly if it's a wireless network. Well, the Wi-Fi waves are going right through you right now. You can get out your phone and pick them up, get other equipment to capture everything that goes by, so you can read these. I mean, you don't have to go out there and get your alligator clips clipped onto the wires. Nope, it's going over the air, so you can pick that up. Now, some of it is secured. Some of it is secured, but not very well. And there's message tampering. If you can read it, some people can intercept it and then send another message instead, send what they want. Masquerading, again, is sending messages saying it came from me when it really came from somebody else. And then invalid input is when you're supposed to type in something, and in fact, you type in something. We'll talk about SQL attacks, where somebody expecting you to just type in your name. Instead of your name, you type in a long, tricky SQL command, and it causes the system to do something that they did not expect at all. Replay. Replay is an interesting one where you record information going across some media, and then later you play it back. So if the system asks for your user ID and password, then you can play back what the user entered for the user ID and password. It'll work once, maybe it'll work again. And so that's replay attack. And denial of service is crashing it or flooding a system with more messages than it can handle, or at least so that the legitimate messages become a small fraction of the messages the system receiving. And so therefore, it's overwhelmed with trash messages, and it's hard to process the legitimate messages. Then there's false identification. People go to efforts to fake authentication systems who enter bad passwords, use ways to get around facial recognition, fingerprints, all those things. We'll talk about during the semester. Then there's malicious software, the whole zoo of viruses, worms, Trojan horses, and those things. Defense in depth is a concept that you need to put more than one protection out there. You need to put more than one lock on the door. You need to have multiple ways to keep people out, because you don't want it such that if somebody finds a way to break through one lock, that they're in. You want to have several ways to stop them. And so we'll be talking at that. You want to prevent them. You want to be able to prevent them from getting in. And if that doesn't work, you want to detect that they're there. You want to note that they are there and doing something. And then if they have damaged your system, you want to be able to take some measures to stop them. If you think, oh, looks like somebody's doing something to us, you want to be able to stop it right away, determine what happened and how to repair the damage. So you have to have thinking about that for the first time after you realize somebody's gone out there and done something to you. It's not a good idea. You need to be pre-prepared, ready to respond to damage should it happen. So you want to prevent attacks, and then you want to detect if attacks happening, and if something has happened, you want to find out what did they do, what information might they have stolen, and what can you do about it. There's all parts of this. There are people, that's you. Will you be able to go out and get a job in the cybersecurity area and be able to do things to help make this work? Sometimes when you access data, a way to keep things secure is required that two people have to authorize an activity. In other words, you don't just do it by yourself, but that you are required to have two people. I used to have a system where you had to put two ID devices into the system and type your password. Two people do it at once in order to access some information. I didn't really have any information that secure, but I had this. If I did, I had the equipment to do it. And so you need to have process, and your processes need to be documented. There's a lot of systems in the engineering field. It's important that you document your processes. You need to document how this should work, your procedures, so people know what to do. So if an event occurs, they aren't going, gee, what do I do now? No, they should be able to look at the documentation that you have and say, oh, okay, if this hurts, I must do this, and stop it right away. Unfortunately, users, your general average user, is not very good at keeping their information secure. All sorts of boxes pop up saying, yeah, erase your disk, and yes, no, people click yes, oh, sure, why shouldn't I? And it will do that. So yes, people often do not know how to protect their systems. They will use insecure passwords. And again, we'll start talking about that shortly, an assignment about using insecure passwords and seeing if you can hack into them. Many people don't know how to use. They'll get the system will pop up an alert, and they'll go, oh, well, I want to run this program. I will click the button that makes it run anyway, which is probably not a good choice. Phishing, we will talk about phishing attacks. Phishing is when you try to convince somebody to give you information. One of the easiest ways to find out a password is to ask the person who knows the password, what is the password? And unfortunately, far too often, they'll tell the person who's asking what the password is. And so no matter how secure things, if somebody's going to tell them what the password is, it's just not working very well. So, and there's ways to try to fake them out, try to fool them into thinking their password. Also, the newspapers, the magazines all have things about don't be scammed. And there's more than just password attacks. There's all sorts of attacks. And I'll tell you, as a guy with a gray beard, they like to attack elderly people. They go after us old farts because they think we don't know anything about computers. So watch out. People are trying to get you. A common thing is they'll send official-looking email or paper mail or call you up. This is Microsoft. There's a problem with your computer. No, Microsoft never calls. The IRS never calls. Okay, so basically, yes, as I stole this cartoon from Walt Kelly, it was about 50 years ago, but yes, we've met the enemy, and he is us. Users are often the greatest threat to their own system security. Okay, so I've run out of time. Boy, not done yet. Well, we've not run out of time, but I'm done, so we'll call it quits. Please read chapter 1. Read chapter 2 for Monday. Chapter 2.3 isn't as important, so you just kind of flip through 2.3, doing your speed reading, but read the rest of it. Try to look at that. So get yourself a textbook. Somebody's going to tell me what they cost. Remember that? So get yourself a textbook. Send me, yes, you know what's called? Excuse me? Excuse me, I couldn't. Right? Should be. I'm not sure that it is. Is it? You found it? Oh, okay, it's there. Okay, good. The bookstore sent me an email. I was supposed to forward to you about the textbook being there, but I wasn't sure it was there. And in previous efforts, I hadn't found it there, so they must have put it there recently, so you can find it there. Okay, good. Great. Since it's free, read it. That's it. Other questions? Nobody has any questions about this class? Oh, okay. There are 2 TAs in this class. Mr. Raval, who's probably going to be here in 5 minutes, will miss the class, this T, and Mr. He, who is another TA. So we have 2 TAs. They'll be grading material and helping make up the questions along with me. So that's it. So unless you have any other questions, that's it for today. I'll try to make the lecture longer on Monday. All right. See you then. Oh, we have 24 or 22. Yes, you took 422?
I did.
Oh, man, this is about the same thing.
It's okay. It's required for my master's.
Oh, okay. Yes, it's required for several degrees. Yeah. And so,
But I think it's simple. There were some projects that I struggled with last semester that, not last semester, last year. I literally took it last year.
stop the recording.